True leaders don't play to the gallery. True leaders are comfortable leading against the currents. True leaders are comfortable to do things that their followers may not understand, at least at first. True leaders are known to have the boldness and the courage to stand with the truth, to keep up with their convictions, not backing down because of what others say or what they think. So, welcome to Leadership in 30 Minutes. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu, and today I'll be speaking on leaders swimming against the currents. If you like, leadership, all right, swimming against the currents. One of the things that you find, in the experience of leaders is how very often their followers believe that what they're doing is wrong. Well, you and I have probably done that before, confidently criticizing our leaders, picking holes in what they do, wondering what they are thinking about, taking certain steps. As far as we're concerned, we believe that those steps are not, the right steps to take. They are not perhaps in our best interest, or maybe even in the best interest of the team. Leaders are subject to huge criticism. Perhaps understandably so, because everyone is looking up to them. Because on their side of things, they're standing alone, all right? And everyone else is standing just observing them. Everyone is waiting on them, so they're like up there on the stage, and they're exposed to all kinds of knocks, especially hard knocks. But, if you're a true leader, that won't mean much to you, because it's one of those things that comes with the territory, or that comes with the calling. When you're a leader, you're exposed. When you're a leader, you should be ready to be treated as a scapegoat. When you're a leader, the missiles will come at you. The criticisms will be, unending. Because everybody always believe that they can do better, than the leader. They believe that if I were in the leader's shoes, I wouldn't make this kind of mistakes, so to speak. I wouldn't even think about things like that. What they seldom appreciate is they know absolutely nothing about the content of the shoes of the leader, nor are they aware of the difficulties involved in leadership decision making. The leader has to consider many issues. The leader looks at a problem from perhaps a completely different perspective from that of the follower. Before I forget, it's an act of pride, quite frankly, for the follower to believe that they know more than the leader. At least, that's true for a good leader. Even if you had more experience than the one that you are now following, or who is now heading your team, all right, humility demands that you subject yourself, to that leadership. If you truly understand leadership, you would know that you owe the leader a responsibility to cooperate, to collaborate, to support, all right, towards ensuring that the goals of the team, they are achieved. And you can do that without criticizing. You can do that without thinking that the leader is stupid, or just has no clue. There are ways of making contributions okay, and helping your leader without punching holes in every step that the leader takes, or in the things that the leader does, or in you thinking that you know, much more than the leader knows. And so, because of the fact that there are almost always pushbacks against the steps that the leader takes, the leader finds himself or herself typically swimming against the currents. I was inspired to speak on this subject when I watched the video recently, and it was a training video apparently, and I saw a swimmer who had to jump into a pool, but water was coming from one direction with a lot of force, and the idea was for the swimmer to jump, all right, into where the water was coming from and to swim against, the flow of the water. The water wasn't just flowing, the water was flowing with some good amount of force. And, I guess the test and where the training for stamina, for speed, is that let's see how long the swimmer, all right, can hold his own. Okay, how long it will take for the force of the water to take over, all that the swimmer was doing, and to forestall the progress of the swimmer. And what you find is that with that kind of training, you are building up the swimmer in many ways. Among other things, all right, you're building up the swimmer's ability to stand against, contrary forces. Okay. And surely a leader always find himself or herself in such a situation where people are expecting you to do something. It appears to be the popular thing to do, all right, in a particular situation. But somehow, because you know what you know, because you feel what you feel, you feel where the shoe pinches, you know the issues that you have to balance as a leader, you often have to move in a contrary direction, in the same direction that people are running away from. That's the direction you find yourself having to go, swimming against the currents. The point to make is that if you are doing leadership right, expect that to be one of the key highlights or key features of your reign. Okay, you will almost always have to push back against what is regarded as the popular course of action. True leaders don't follow the popular course of action. True leaders know enough to follow the truth. True leaders know enough to be driven by principles. True leaders know enough about how to balance conflicting interests in the quest to ensure that they carry everybody along. True leaders understand that it's important that every member of the team, all right, benefits from their leadership. And so if you are to ensure all of those are achieved, then of course you are not likely to follow the normal course of action or the popular course of action, or to do the things that those who follow you would typically expect you to do. You must be ready to swim against the currents. You must be ready to hold your own in those situations. You must be willing to look away from the pushbacks of people, all right, and to focus on the substance that is driving your decision making, all right, and the execution of your chosen courses of action in the hope and expectation that the results will prove you right. That the results will prove you right. Okay, that's the way it is. And if you are a follower, it's time for you to wake up and to understand that if you were better than the leader, if you understood leadership better than your leader, then you would have been the one leading. All right? That's a statement that ought to humble many followers. And leadership is not about the technical skill. You can be more, technically skilled than the leader. You can, know how to program. You can know how to, your computer literacy, may be higher. In certain areas, you may know more than the leader. All right. The point, however, is that leadership, the capacity to lead, is not determined by those technical skills. The capacity to lead is determined by leadership skills. All right. And that most likely your leader has in abundance more than you have. And so if you understand that, then you know that it's in your best interest to try, whenever you find the leader doing something that you don't understand, doing something contrary to what you believe should be, the proper course of action, what you should try and do is to find out why the leader has chosen to do what he or she is doing. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to seek understanding of the conduct of your leader. That's part of how you learn leadership. That's part of how you build capacity to lead. Don't be quick, all right, thinking that you know to punch holes in what your leader is trying to do. With all that we're saying here, you should understand that leaders typically swim against the currents. Leaders typically make choices that are contrary to yours. Why? Because you don't have as much information as they have. Because you are not shouldering the kind of responsibilities that they're shouldering. Because you don't have that opportunity to consider the conflicting interests that they are trying to reconcile. All right, there is too much at stake most times. And you discover that, the issues are usually not about just you. The reason why many of us feel that we can take issues with what our leaders do is because we think only about ourselves. We're not thinking about others. We think that the choice that we made, what we believe to be good, is what is good for everyone who is a stakeholder. In fact, some people don't understand that in particular situations, there can be many stakeholders. And when there are many stakeholders, the interests of those stakeholders can conflict and often do conflict. Now, how do you resolve that conflict? Because clearly, it's not going to be one or the other. It's usually going to be give and take. Left to you as a follower, you would go for a winner takes all. But for the leader would be looking at a win-win. There's a whole world of difference, all right, between those two approaches. And if you want to become a leader, you need to begin to embrace that understanding. You need to begin to embrace that understanding. It's not just for the fun of it that a leader wants to swim against the currents. In actual fact, the leader is deliberate, not about swimming against the current, but about pursuing, what is the more appropriate course of action. in any particular situation. It just turns out that the choice that the leader may have to make puts the leader in a position where he has to swim against the popular, the popular view or the popular choice or course of action. And this is one of, the justifications for suggesting, that for you to truly profit from the leader, you need to have faith in the leader and trust your leader. Because one of the key differences between the leader and the follower is the faith of the leader, is the conviction of the leader, the confidence with which the leader pursues his or her courses of action. All right, leaders are distinguished by their confidence, by their faith, all right, which is driven by certain convictions. And rooted in all of that is a measure, it's a deeper measure of understanding. Okay, so when you look at the leader is not flying blind. The leader is being driven by a force, perhaps typically proven, tested, tried. Okay, so it's not as though by choosing options that are contrary to what you believe to be right, that the leader is gambling. No, the leader is not necessarily gambling. The leader is playing out on certain principles, certain, experiences, things that they have seen. Okay, I mean, I remember, for example, some of the disciples of Jesus saying to their people after they had been trained and sent out, that look, the things that we declare to you are the things that we have seen, the things that we have heard, the things that our hands have handled. Okay, that is, we're talking to you out of knowledge, we're talking to you out of experience, we're talking to you out of, convictions. We have gone through certain things that you have not had the opportunity of experiencing. That's why we're bold enough to choose the options that we're choosing, to pursue the courses of action that we're pursuing, to say the things that we're saying. And yes, they are contrary to what you would normally do. But guess what? We're not flying blind. We're drawing from somewhere. We're drawing from a depth that you don't know. And we're pursuing all that we're pursuing on the back of deep understanding. So we know that we're going to get results. If that's the case, why wouldn't you want to follow that kind of leader? Do you have that understanding that your leader's choice is not a reflection of stupidity or foolishness or lack of wisdom? That your leader's choice is coming from somewhere, what they have learned, what they have heard, what they have seen, what their hands have handled, all right, over the years, as they were being developed, as their capacity to lead were being built by other leaders. That's the way that it goes. And so the leader, a true leader, conducts his or her business by faith, based on strong convictions, based on clearly proven principles. They have an expectation. They are confident that the actions they are taking will work. And many times you find that, wow, but this thing works, or this thing is working. Okay? And so let me also ride on that point, as I begin to close, that one of the things that you and I stand to benefit from our leaders is the faith that drives their actions. Leaders are defined by their faith. Their ability to swim against the currents is sustained by faith. That's where they draw their confidence from. To say, sorry, we would rather go a different direction than what everyone is expecting, not because we want to, not because we just want to be different, but because we have reason to believe that the popular choice is not right, will not resolve the matter, will not get us to where we're going. This is something else will get us to where we're going, and this is it. Okay, and you and I as followers need to learn that. The leader will succeed with us on the basis of their faith, by doing what they believe, which may not be comfortable for us, but in the process, we also will build faith after the order of the leader, just like the leader. Because if we're true successors, we must also operate by that faith. So when they say they have seen things, they have handled things, they have heard things, they have experienced things that is driving their choices as the leaders, where we had better pay attention and stay focused on what they are doing, to learn, to experience the same things, because such would be the stories that we will tell the people that we also go on to lead. So when you are following a leader, one of the things you must be attentive to pick, to embrace, to build, if you must be a true, reliable successor, is the faith and the conviction of the leader. Because make no mistake, when you lead others, you will find that you also have to swim against the currents. You would have to make choices that are not popular. You would have to take steps that will make you appear as foolish, but they are the right steps that those who follow you will only come to discover when they begin to produce results. That's how leadership goes. You must be ready and willing to swim against the currents. The criticisms will come. If you are a leader and people are not criticizing you, I guarantee that you are doing leadership wrong. Yes. Why? Because, like Jesus said, to someone, he said, birds, foxes have holes, birds have nests, but the leader has nowhere to lay his head. It's a warning to project the life of a true leader, that it's such where tough choices will be made. They won't sit well always with the people who are following. They would have a tendency to feel uncomfortable and even to rebel like some people did to Jesus as well. There'll be people who would always think that your choices are wrong. There'll be those who would think that they know more than you, that in that particular situation, you should have done things differently. Interestingly, for such people, it's just an exposition of their ignorance. Be careful not to think that you know more than a trained leader, an experienced leader, a credible leader. Be careful, because you don't see things from the leader's perspective. For the reason that you are not the one carrying the responsibility. The leader is the one shouldering the responsibility. And the leader is not considering you alone. The leader is considering many stakeholders, of which you are only one. And please don't fool yourself into thinking that your interests are the same with the interests of everybody else. You see, one of the interesting things about the way we view leadership at the national level is that we often think that the way we think as individuals is the way other citizens think. We think that what we want from the president, for example, is what everybody else wants. You need to really know that there are as many expectations from one single president as there are citizens in the country. So when decisions are being taken, they are not taken just because of you alone. Your interest is one out of millions of interests that one person has to consider. So the chances are that choices can be made which you don't understand, which may even offend you, which you may regard as absolute nonsense. But maybe you are right. But where you may be wrong is the fact that you're only thinking about yourself. There are many other people whose interests demand to be considered, all right, in decision making. And the leader is the one who has to balance the interests. The leader is the one who has to ensure that it's a win-win for everybody as much as possible. And it's never about the winner taking all. If you are faced with situations like that, and you face them not just at the national level, you face them at every level of leadership. All right? If you are in such situations, you will swim against the currents. So be prepared for it. Learn how to do it. Watch and learn from your leader. And soon you would understand these important aspects of leadership dynamics. And you prepare yourself further to be an authentic leader and not one, who likes to criticize other leaders. And when they get to the position, they are trying to explain themselves away. Now that they are facing the same thing that the leader was facing that they never knew, and they're finding difficulty, managing all the interests. That's it for today. Leadership in 30 minutes. And I've been speaking about leaders and the fact that they swim typically against the currents. And, hopefully you have an understanding of what it entails. You can appreciate the circumstances and the decisions of your leaders better, and you can begin to position yourself and to learn, a very important dimension of leadership that prepares you to provide better leadership where you are right now, and as you grow and develop in your career, in your business, whatever the case may be. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu. I want to thank you for joining me again, on Leadership in 30 Minutes today. I hope to see you on Monday when it will be time for Leadership on Monday, and you can take delivery of the nugget to help you do leadership right, all through the week. And let me say, you can join our group, the Authentic Leadership Academy, where you can have access, to all of these broadcasts and much more. You'll find the link in the description. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do that, and also share this with others if you have received value. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of the week. Bye-bye.